Hey guys, it's Jen. Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another meal prep video. This week I'm doing things a little bit differently and showing you 3 dinner meal preps that you can make on the weekend for the upcoming week. So the first thing that I'm going to make is some chicken tacos, and I'm using a recipe from closetcooking.com. I will leave a link to the original recipe down below. But another thing I wanted to mention about all of these meals is they can easily be turned into freezer meals. If you wanted to make these ahead of time and put them in your deep freeze, they are perfect to take out and throw either in the oven or the crock pot when you are ready to eat. So for this recipe, you are going to need some chicken breast and some orange juice and some lime juice and then some different Mexican seasonings. Now, we tried this recipe and I have to say that as made per the directions, it was very citrusy and I thought it was okay, but my family didn't really like it too much. So just keep that in mind if you're going to make it. I would maybe cut the orange juice and lime juice by half. But anyway, you will just mix all of the ingredients together in a large Ziploc bag. I'm just using 2 really large chicken breasts that I got from Costco and putting in my citrus juice and my chili powder and cumin and oregano and some salt, and I'll just mix that together to make sure that everything is well combined. And at this point I went ahead and put it in the refrigerator, but you could definitely, like I said, also freeze it. Now the morning that I wanted to make this, I'm just putting it in my Casserole multi-cooker. This thing is great. You can get these on Amazon, and if you're in the market for a new crock pot, I would totally recommend this because it does way more than slow cook. It also sautés and it keeps warm at the end of the cycle. So you can see here that my chicken is cooked. This is after I got home that day. If I didn't mention this, I'll leave a link to this in the description box below if you are looking for a new crock pot. But we shredded up this chicken and then I just served it on some flour tortillas with cheese and salsa and cilantro and sour cream. So I would definitely make it again, but I would cut back on the citrus juice. Okay, so the next meal that I'm going to prep is some slow cooker banh mi rice bowls. That is a recipe from Skinny Taste, and she does have this recipe on her blog, so I will link it below, but you can also find it in the Skinny Taste Fast and Slow cookbook. I'll leave a link to that cookbook down below too. I really love it. I've made a bunch of recipes out of it and they are all really good. So if you're not familiar with banh mi, it's actually a Vietnamese sandwich, but this recipe uses rice and veggies in a bowl along with meat and some other toppings instead of a sandwich, which is kind of a neat play on it. So basically you are going to slow cook a pork tenderloin and you will marinate it first in some soy sauce, brown sugar, garlic, and some jalapeno. And what I'm doing is just putting this in a Ziploc bag. I have that set into a bowl there so that my bag doesn't fall over and get, liquid all over my counter. I got a pork tenderloin from the grocery store. It's about 1 pound. I cut it in half. It was 2 pounds. And so I'll just put that in the Ziploc bag and make sure that the marinade is covering the meat. At this point, you could put it in the freezer and freeze it for a later use, but I'm just going to go ahead and pop it in the refrigerator because I'm going to make it this week. So the other neat thing about this recipe is that you can also prep some toppings to go on top of your bowls. So this recipe had a kind of a pickled radish and carrot mixture that's really good. And so basically you're just making a quick pickle. So you're just going to cut up some radishes into matchsticks and then carrots also. I'm using the pre-shredded carrots, but if you didn't have any of those, you could just cut up baby carrots into matchsticks. But you will just put all of your radishes and your carrots into a mason jar, and then you're going to mix up your pickling liquid, which is vinegar and sugar and salt, and then pour that over the vegetables, and that will sit in the refrigerator. You can keep it for up to 3 to 5 days, and it just makes a really good quick carrot and radish pickle to have over your bowls. So I'm just going to mix this up and get it poured over the vegetables, and then I will get that in the refrigerator. So one of the other garnishes that you can use for the top of your bowls is some thinly sliced fresh jalapeno. This is also something that you can obviously chop up ahead, so I'm just slicing that really thin and putting it in a Ziploc bag to use later in the week. So now it's the morning of, and I am going to put my marinated pork into my Casserole multi-cooker, and I will pop the lid on, and I'm going to cook this on low all day for 10 hours, and it will automatically go to keep warm when it's done. And here is what the pork looked like after it was done, and I shredded it up. Not a whole lot of juice in there, so I might add some extra chicken broth the next time. I also made some super quick boil in a bag rice to go with this, and here is the finished bowl. So I have the pork, the rice, the quick pickles, some sliced cucumber, cilantro, and it was really, really good. So the next thing that I'm going to make is a tater tot casserole. This is kind of a throwback recipe. I remember my mom and my dad making this when I was growing up. This isn't something I make a whole lot, but I definitely like to make it when I'm feeling nostalgic, and I kind of have my own method for making it. I know that people make it differently, but I'm just going to share my recipe, and I will type it out in the description box below if you're interested. So I'm just starting out with a pound of lean ground beef, and I'm going to saute that in a skillet with salt and pepper. You can add chopped onions if you want. My kids aren't crazy about that, so I didn't add it. Once it's done, you can drain it if it needs it, and then you will add 1 can of cream of chicken soup. And I like to stir that around and also add some milk. Now, I don't measure the milk. If I had to guess, I would probably say that I used about 3/4 of a soup can of milk. You basically just want to pour it in and kind of stir it around with the ground beef to kind of loosen it up. You obviously don't want it too soupy because it's a casserole, but you can add enough to make sort of like a gravy consistency, because you're also going to add some frozen mixed vegetables to this. So once that was kind of where I wanted it, I'm going to add a bag of frozen mixed vegetables. So this is carrots, green beans, and corn. And I will just stir that up. You don't have to cook this through, obviously, because it's going to go into the oven. So I just want to make sure to stir that until combined. You could add some extra salt and pepper if you wanted. I didn't add any just because that cream of chicken soup is pretty salty. So I would definitely go light on the salt, and then you can salt afterwards if it needs it. So once that mixture is done, you will want to pour it into a baking dish. You can use a regular 9x13 dish. I'm using a disposable pan. This is what you would use if you're going to make a freezer meal out of it. So I just sprayed the pan with nonstick spray, and I'm putting the ground beef mixture in the bottom. And now for the super fancy part, I am putting Kraft singles on top of the meat mixture. I do not use shredded cheese. I do not use Velveeta. I do not use off-brand. I always use Kraft singles. And yes, I leave a piece of it without cheese for my daughter because she is odd and doesn't like cheese on hers. But anyway, yes, use Kraft singles. It is the best. They melt the best. I know it sounds weird, but it is super good. So last step is to put on your tater tots. We have a big debate going on in my family as to whether you should line up and arrange your tots as I do. I stand firm in the fact that I want to line up my tots because I feel that's the only way you can get even tot coverage. But my sister just kind of dumps hers on all willy-nilly. I can't live with that in my life, but you know, to each their own. So at this point, you could go ahead and freeze this in your deep freeze. Cover it with foil and take it out at a later time. I was going to bake it later that night, so I didn't do that. But here I will show you the finished tater tot casserole in all of its glory. Like I said, this isn't something that I make very often, but when I do, it is really good. So anyway, that is it for this week's meal prep. Kind of different. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you got some ideas for meals that you can make ahead for your own family this weekend. And I will see you in my next video. Bye.